Be kind.
Hi, how are you?
I'm peachy.
Great. Well, I thought it was important for me to ask the questions at this point to start off with.
And by the way, he flipped this at the end. I was supposed to start, so he's still in charge.
Yeah. Who wants to hear from the old guy? So, I've admired so many of the things that you've done over the years I've been here. And besides building up an incredible financial operation, you have just been the architect of so many of the things that typically fall outside a traditional CFO role that have really helped us. And you've done that through innovation and putting together teams and working on collaboration. Can you talk a little bit about how you kind of approach that?
Sure. And it's really the way we've approached things. I think it really starts with mission, vision, and values, right? So we've all come here as a result of that 127-year-old mission of providing care regardless of ability to pay. And I think, it's what brought me here. I'm sure it's what brought a lot of you here. And then from a visioning perspective, we've been pretty maniacal in terms of our strategic planning over my 25-ish years, just building on one after another, deep engagements with our board, with our staff, with our medical leadership, and really looking at our environment and coming up with great plans, executing on those plans, and then building upon those plans with the next one. And so I think that commitment and that energy really is what has spawned this creativity and this direction that we have. And then, strategy is really important, but they say culture eats strategy for lunch every day, and our one team values is the secret sauce, and it's what really brings us all together. It allows us to make the right decisions. I don't know how many times I've heard because it's the right thing to do, and that really does permeate. We don't get it perfect every time, but I think we always go back to that and try and get it right. So I think that's what's driven our success. That's what drives the way I think about leadership, and we've been blessed to have this kind of organization and that kind of infrastructure.
So how would you think your direct reports describe your leadership style?
Very aggressive and difficult. No, hopefully, the supportive, and we come together. We see what the issues are at hand. It's always very collaborative. We are accountable. Rick Miller has talked about that a lot, that tension in our values between collaborative and accountable. And so I think that's the way I think about it. Someone who's new, you give them a little bit of string and let them perform and let them carry that forward. As you get those long-term relationships and you know how people think, you can be much more autonomous. And so that's kind of been my approach, very situational.
Super. What's your plans for the first 90 days?
Donna's been really on me about this. Got to have a plan. I think the first thing is just getting out, actually a little bit of listening tour, getting out with staff, getting out with the physicians, the scientific community, and hearing what people are thinking with a slightly different lens. I've been here a long time, but hopefully opening up my way of thinking a little bit and hearing what's on people's minds. We have a great leadership team and a lot of continuity there, but we kind of have to get back together. I'm going to be in a new role. We've got a couple of new team members that need to be just a little bit more integrated, and then we've got a couple of onboardings that are going to occur. So a new surgeon in chief and obviously a new CFO that we're going to need to bring to the table and really start to gel as a team. And then I think we want to do a little bit of a deep dive and look at our strategic plan and just do a checkup to see how we're doing, and then look where we might be able to go to next. Each of it, and don't worry, we'll resource it. I know everybody's working really hard, but we're always do this. Organically, there's going to be more opportunities for us. I think we want to identify that, share that with the board, and get things moving. So. The final piece is what you've done a lot, right, is I've been out in the community. So reconnecting with our board, with the donor community, meeting with community leaders, our partners in the various hospital systems, the adult hospitals, the children's hospitals, and so making sure that they know me and we start to build trust as we continue some really important partnerships.
So what is it, the question is kind of, what are you most excited about the future of the hospital? But I think that kind of bleeds into what you were just talking a little bit more about. I mean, what more, where is it that you see this children's hospital position compared to our peers and to the rest of the academic community as well?
Yeah. When I got introduced as the new CEO, I said, I think we have more potential, literally, I think we have more potential than any other institutions to really affect the health status of kids. We've got this great integrated delivery system with incredibly talented people, world-class clinical and research programs to build upon and to continue to grow. But that leadership position that we've taken in those accelerators, and there's no new news here, right? Our leadership position in behavioral health and where we're going to change the national dialogue, the work that Rick and Elaine and company are doing in genomics, which is going to transform care, our population health. I think, as we've looked around and we've brought people in, very few people are as well equipped as we are to really affect the health status of kids and going after the social determinants, and through PFK really creating an environment where we're helping kids be well and to treat them more effectively. So I think we have a really important leadership position in all those areas that many of our peers are following the more traditional approaches, and that really differentiates, I think.
So you've had a phenomenal success with Partners for Kids. And I know that I have colleagues around the country who ask me how it's done. I know you've hosted one group after another, yet nobody else has been able to reproduce what you've been able to do with that program. What is it that you think has been the keys to continuing success?
It's better to be lucky than good. We had the luxury of starting back in the day for different reasons. There were contracting issues, and we decided to go at risk because health plans were going belly up and we just weren't getting paid. So we did it for some really basic reasons, but started with 13,000 lives and then 25, then 150 and up to 325,000. So we had that opportunity to do this over a 20-year period, to build the infrastructure and the capabilities and the culture around that. And I would say that in combination with our unique position in the marketplace, having this large integrated delivery system with the strong market presence that we have, really enables us in a way that other organizations, so it's a pretty high hill to climb, but getting that confidence to take risks, to get a board that would support that and have the culture that would embrace it in those down years and all the up years. So.
Yeah, that's really good. So when I look around the country at our...
I thought there was 3 questions.
This is really good. I don't get a chance to do this all the time. One more.
You're fine.
When I look around the country, among the people who are in who I would consider our peers, they either choose to be a high-end tertiary quaternary center, or they tend to be more of a safety net hospital. And yet, with you here, it seems like we've been able to tackle both of those things. Why is it that you think we can do that when others say you got to be focused more on one than the other?
Right. Well, and you are actually the driver behind this. I'll take a little credit, but you deserve most of it. It's what's unique about Columbus and that market position and that commitment to provide care regardless of ability to pay. It sounds like a phrase, but it's really important. We don't have county hospitals that the poor kids are shunned to. We have our founders in this community said, we're going to have one standard of care in this community and it's all going to be concentrated here. And so we start with that. Cincinnati's like that. But then we had bigger aspirations, and we said in order to be relevant and have the best care anywhere in the world, we have to build it here, we have to have the research, and we have to do the cutting edge stuff. And so I think they both work, and they work really well in this environment where we have the community support the way that we do. So I think it's one of the things we're all very proud about.
And you certainly have been the architect and making sure we had the resources to make it happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now it's Steve's turn. No, the obvious thing is, you've just had an incredible run, probably one of the most transformational periods in the hospital's history. Maybe when the polio the crisis occurred, maybe that was a bigger inflection point, but I can't think of many. So what are a couple of unique memories that you have, special memories of that, and what accomplishments are you most proud of?
So I'll go back and use your line. It's better to be lucky than good. I happened to come into the place at just the right time. It was there had been some issues with our relationship with Ohio State, which needed to be ironed out. I think the biggest thing that happened for me is I inherited an incredibly strong leadership team. And all who had a reasonable amount of institutional memory and who had already internalized the founding mission of the place. And I think that's what really attracted me during the interview process. I said, wow, this is a place that is really pursuing the values that drew me into healthcare to begin with, but for so many other institutions in the country, they just kind of get lost because of all the other external pressures. But this is a place that really believed in, wanted to do the right thing. And as I tell people, I thought it was a good opportunity when I took the job. I grossly underestimated what we could do over time. So I think one of the things that I've learned from that, I hope to learn from it, is I need to always set my sights higher than what I think that we can achieve, because we've outperformed, in so many areas. And I attribute some of that to luck, but then people always tell me, well, you tend to make your own luck. I think we've had as you mentioned, I think we've had the right secret sauce with a culture that allows us to be able to take on things that other people just, at first when I describe it to them, they just say, are you out of your mind? And then we become the ones who drive the national dialogue, and I can just point to so many different things. So I just feel very fortunate, to be associated with it. Of course, when I got here, one of the first things when I first met you, I was trying to figure out, is this a turnaround? Are we,
I scare you?
No. There's so many other places. The first thing they're trying to do is get their finances under control. And I said, well, no, actually, we're in pretty good shape. We can probably fund some of these ambitions, and maybe what's important for institutions like us, what's our appetite for risk taking? Because you can't really advance a reasonable strategic plan unless you're willing to take some risks. And if you're willing to take a risk, how capable or tolerant of you for when it doesn't always work out? So, and this is a place that seemed, no, I think we can, that's all okay, we can tolerate that. And I think I was very fortunate is that we had some good wins early on, and then we were just able to build on it over time.
Right. Are there a couple of memorable moments in there that?
I think it's, I think of some of the recruits I have, but I tell you, some of the things I did, I think one of the ones which I'm sure I've worked you with in the past, but maybe not everybody has heard it, is that when I was just trying to get familiar with the hospital, because you have to understand that where I was before, I'd been there for 24 years. And so, as you know, when you're in a place like that, where all the hallways are, where people hide equipment, who you got to talk to get something done. And here, I knew no one. So I spent some time walking around, but I remember working with one of the housekeepers, and I was helping her clean rooms. And we went into a patient's room, and she spoke, it was a foreign language, I forgot which one it was now, but she started speaking to the mother in the room in their native language while I was sweeping the room and taking out the trash and things like that. And what took me is that this is a woman who knew who I was, and yet she stopped what her job was so she could talk to that mother, because she knew she probably was the best person who could alleviate some of that mother's stress and anxiety. And I thought, wow, if it happens at that level, imagine what it happens every place else. I think the other one I was really taken with is going out to our primary care close to home clinics and seeing up close the challenges that those families have and what our staff does over and above what we ask them to do to make sure that those children get care. I thought, wow, I got to work harder.
That's great. So that doesn't surprise me, your response. We got a $50 million gift. We built a new clinical tower. And I think that really speaks to your leadership style, your humbleness, and what's really been so successful for you. So in closing, what advice do you have for me?
I think it's hard for me to give you advice because I've come to you so often to ask your advice. I think I'll just go back to something I alluded to earlier. No matter how aspirational we are, we always seem to overachieve. So I think you're in a unique position, particularly with what our standing is and with the resources that we have, that you can take some risk and try to see if you can't really hit a couple of big home runs and just really change the way that people think about what our industry can do.
So you're going to raise the bar on me once again.